The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Welcome everybody to this safety law webinar today. I hope you are interested in the topic because it will be about procurement, and we are going to see a couple of examples where actually incidents occurred related to procurement. What does it mean that it was with or related to procurement? I will let you know. My name is Just a second, please, because apparently recording stopped. Okay, so procurement. My name is Susanna Gyenes, and I am the deputy to the director of the iChemist Safety Center. And today's webinar is about the last safety law that we published in December last year. And this is going to be the discussion about procurement. But let's see, what does it mean, first of all? Procurement is it's a special process within companies, and it is part of the corporate strategy, a very, very important vital component which helps in ensuring effective supply chain management. So it has a really, really crucial role within the company, and I will mention later a couple of related publications that you may want to look at if you are interested in the topic. Just to mention that companies need to be intelligent customers when procuring services or equipment, because they can impact the integrity of the site. What am I thinking about? For example, when hiring contractors, the tender should specify the required qualifications, adequate knowledge and evidence from the contractor company, and we will see the details about that. This webinar is hopefully now being recorded, and you will be able to watch it later at our YouTube channel. And also we will upload it to the past webinars session up at the iChemist website. So I brought you, as always, two cases, and hopefully you are able to hear me very well. And please, if you want to ask questions or have any recommendations, comments from your practice, from your experience, do not hesitate and add them to the questions box, please. And then we will discuss in the end of the webinar. Now, what happened here? This particular accident occurred in a chemical plant in 2010, where there was a release of highly toxic phosgene as the hose burst while an operator was inside the phosgene shed and performed a routine operation. A braided steel hose connected to a 1-ton capacity phosgene tank suddenly ruptured and then released phosgene into the air. So the operator was exposed to this phosgene and unfortunately died in the incident. Now, what happened, or what do we know about this case? What are the key findings that we may highlight for this particular case in relation to procurement? So apparently there was an ongoing dispute since 1987 about the flexible hoses between the site and the corporate experts. And the corporate standard listed acceptable construction materials for flexible hoses, and then they made a recommendation of 3 of those that they thought might be the best one to use for these hoses, and they even suggested. However, this particular facility within the corporate which is involved in the accident, they followed the practice using a flexible hose made of PTFE, which is polytetrafluoroethylene, which was the inner core, and a braided stainless steel reinforcement material. Now, the problem with stainless steel in this case it wasn't recommended for phosgene service because it is susceptible to stress corrosion cracking from chlorides. And in fact, extensive corrosion was already localized under the area covered by the tape. This inner core and the braided stainless steel of the hoses had provided such an ideal environment for corrosion, and that caused the corrosion cracking. In addition to that, what was also important is that phosgene permeation through this inner core had resulted in leaks in the past. However, the process hazard analysis team did not consider that particular hazard for the phosgene cylinder hoses. Now, that is another aspect that I'm mentioning here, the lack of process hazard analysis for a particular hazard, which was overlooked in this case. And if you look back in past safety laws, you will discover that we have already published a safety law on hazard identification. So those incidents that were related directly as a result of lack or inadequate hazard identification or analysis. So that was another aspect in this particular case. And despite the fact that questions were raised concerning whether the hoses used were ideal choice for phosgene transfer, now the company had calculated the risk and cost effectiveness of purchasing replacement hoses to be too high. So there was this cost effectiveness consideration, which was cheaper. Now, this occurred even though, as of 2010, so that particular year, the Compressed Gas Association standards for this particular PTFE or polytetrafluoroethylene hoses stated that the use of PTFE lined hoses are not suitable for use with poisonous, toxic, or pyrophoric gases because permeation of gas through the PTFE wall creates a potential hazard. Now, it was already stated in the standard, it was already stated in the corporate, yet the company decided against these recommendations, and hence they suffered this particular serious incident. And that was related to procurement. Now, the second case is also a very relevant one to this phenomenon, which occurred in a hydroelectric plant, and there was a fire in 2007 in a pumped storage hydroelectric plant, which unfortunately caused the fatality of 5 and injured 3 workers. The fatally injured workers were trapped deep underground during an operation to coat the inside of the tunnel with epoxy using highly flammable solvent. The tunnel was several thousand feet long and connected to reservoir with electricity generating turbines. Now, what happened really, and what are the key findings for this particular case? The investigation found out that corporate policies regarding contractor selection did not adequately ensure contractor safety performance for the project, and also that contractor selection methodology did not disqualify contractors with substandard safety records from bidding on the project. And here, after the pre-qualification process, the company reviewed all the proposals that they received for this particular project to complete, and the contractor safety performance was graded as a 0, and that was the lowest score possible. So this contractor company performed like 0. It was a very, very bad history of performance, safety performance, and despite the fact that contractor disqualification from the bidding process was based upon however, contractor disqualification from the bidding process was based upon, unfortunately, again, financial capacity and not based on past safety performance. And that was, again, what happened, similar to the other case and several other cases that I have reviewed for this particular safety law. And the evaluation rating from form stated that the score of 0 did not meet minimum requirements and required automatic rejection. Nevertheless, the contractor was still allowed to compete for the contract, and its proposal was ranked as best based on predominantly its low price. The company's policies addressing contractor selection relied upon self-reporting. That was another aspect that was really important in this case, and did not include specific procedures to verify contractor submissions. While safety records themselves may not be an accurate indicator of contractor performance, it's still important to understand the nature of the records and indications that may show. And so these are the two cases, and the procurement and the performance and competency of procurement department is a crucial aspect here. And the iChemist Safety Center already published 2 guidance documents on competency, and that is the competency framework guidance document and also the supplementary guidance document, how to reach certain level of competency in terms of process safety topics around the 6 elements of the iChemist Safety Center framework, which you can see on this particular slide, because now what we are going to do is not only related to these 2 case studies, but also other case studies as well that I have analyzed. I will give you some recommendations. What can I do? So this is the session where we discuss what can I do as a manager, what can I do as a process safety engineer, and what can I do as an operator around the 6 elements of the iChemist Safety Center framework, which are systems and procedures, engineering and design, assurance, knowledge and competence, human factors, and culture. Now, let's see, what can I do as management? And please feel free to type your suggestions if you are thinking about others, because this list, actually you can download the original safety law in PDF. I will show the link in the end of the presentation, and use that as for your trainings or for any ideas, or share it with your colleague. And also you can find other recommendations that you would like to add to the list. So feel free to do that. It's not a comprehensive list, but I try to collect some thoughts around procurement. Now, what is a core? As a manager, having a solid procurement procedure in place, which involves elements, for example, purchase planning, development of specifications along with supplier research and selection, in case you need to have and you need to invite new suppliers, and contract administration is always a good practice. Ensure that requests for proposals and selection processes include criteria and procedures for pre-qualifying or even disqualifying contractors based on specific safety performance measures and qualifications. Ensure these cover more than simply lost time frequency rate, as this is a poor indicator for process safety. Make sure to implement written verification procedures for the safety information and documentations that's submitted by contractors during the bidding and selection process. And make sure to develop qualification steps for suppliers, for supplier approval to minimize the risk to the plant integrity. What is also vital is that a proper approval process exists when procurement takes place for new and untried supplier. And please involve company technical experts as well as procurement personnel. Ensure to set up a procedure for contractor selection based on their process safety competence and see those evidence, check those evidence. And when hiring contractors, the tender should specify the required qualifications, adequate knowledge, evidence from the third-party company. Ensure procurement personnel have the right level of process safety awareness and competence to make decisions where the purchase may impact plant integrity. This is the part with what I mentioned earlier, that you can find further information and guidance in the competence framework guidance document published by the iChemist Safety Center. And to me, it's a vital one that I addressed as the last item. There must be a dialogue between the procurement team or department and process safety engineers. Process safety engineers know very well the site. They know how the particular unit behaves in certain circumstances. So they are aware what type of valve they would like to see there, what is the specification for the pipeline, and so on. And therefore, their knowledge is really important when when there is a new procurement is going on, or an untried supplier comes into the picture, so that they can share their practice and their experience with that particular unit or equipment. So it's really important that they talk to each other. Now, as process safety engineer and supervisor, make sure that you revise the contractor safety policies to require a comprehensive review and evaluation of their safety policies and procedures in order to ensure that the bidding contractor meets or even exceeds company safety requirements. It can happen. Conduct periodic safety audits of contractor selection. Make sure to provide appropriate information, instruction, and supervision covering third-party workers on site. We have seen many cases where this was failed. And regularly monitor and assess third-party workers' performance and compliance with company procedures. These are a couple of ideas for process engineers and supervisor. You may have more than that or more specific, but these are just triggering thoughts. So you can actually think about where your company is in terms of procurement. And finally, but equally important, that we address what can I do as an operator, and that ensure that you have the skills, knowledge, training, and experience to carry out the work associated to you safely. Ensure that you understand the hazards which are associated with the work that you are doing, and if there is something that could potentially cause additional risk to your safety, then immediately tell it and report it to the supervisor. I know this seems a little bit generic, but they are really important because operators need to know what they can do and what they are obliged to do. So what is their responsibility? And for their own safety, they must be able to report if there is something that they see unsafe on site. And these are the works by the iChemist Safety Center, and I already mentioned the competency framework, and other than that we have other topics and other publications addressing engineering and design assurance and virtual HAZOP, and also related to education. And also you are able to download and even listen to the podcast of this safety law, which you will find available, and it's all free to download. And the Spanish version, the translated version, will come at a later stage. So it will also be uploaded to the website under safety law. So this was the topic that I wanted to address today about procurement, and to initiate some thoughts and triggering some thoughts around this area. I don't know if you have any questions, or do you have anything to add? For example, if you have more recommendations, or even if you don't agree with what I just said about procurement. I'm really happy to see the challenge with this particular topic is that it's not easy to find case studies, because most of the incident reports addressing such challenges that are a bigger picture, meaning lack of hazard identification, or there was a failure in emergency response, or loss of containment events, loss of the integrity of safety. So it's really difficult to find those subtle information. I also published a paper. If some of you are interested in receiving that paper, Do You Speak Procurement is the title. I'm very happy to send send that to you. So just send an email to the safetycenter@icame.org, and I'm very happy to share that information with you. So, do we have any questions? I don't see just yet. Or any comments, recommendations maybe? Okay, there is a question. Do you generally see procurement requirements to incorporate process safety aspects within a management of change process? Yes, I think I see generally the requirement, and especially when you look at, for example, the guidance document of competency framework, you will see the areas where procurement, or the topics where procurement needs certain level of competency in terms of process safety. And one of the areas or topics is management of change. And I think it's really crucial, because they are the ones who decide what will be the next supplier. For example, if you remember Shell Moerdijk, 2014 in the Netherlands, where there was an explosion, where the procurement decided, the company decided, and through the procurement department, to try a new supplier with a new catalyst. And they didn't have laboratory tests for startup processes, and that particular catalyst was not inert in that case, and it contributed to the explosion that occurred in the facility. So I think it's really crucial to, or if you look at or think about Bunsfield and the padlock, the specifications, and how to install the padlock, and how it was something like a missing information or an information that was not considered. So those are the subtle things that you may find, and those are all management of change, because you change something, you hire a new contractor, you select a new supplier, or you buy or purchase new equipment, and so on. So thank you for that question. And there is, I would like to share procurement also important during delivery of safety critical equipment. That's exactly, it's exactly it's exactly true. So thank you so much for that comment, because it's really a valuable one. Okay, there is another comment. Thank you. Indeed, from my experience, procurement, contractors management, and management of change is very interrelated. That's good to hear. So I hope this webinar, even though it's quite a short one, but it highlighted some of the aspects that, even if just a refresher or reminder, because I can see from the audience, from your feedback, that you are completely aware of this topic. So thank you so much for your contribution, and for those questions and further comments. Really valuable. All right. I don't see any more questions or comments, but please feel free to contact me, and feel free to send your questions or further comments if you think that you have additional ones that you would like to address. I'm very happy to respond as much as I can. So thank you so much for being here today, and have a good rest of the day. So thank you. Bye-bye.